This lesson is on the SUMIF and SUMIFs formula, learning the difference between the two and how to use them. We're going to start with the SUMIF. SUMIF is a function where you can add up values based on a single criteria from a value based in another cell in the same row. This is our formula right here for the SUMIF. 3 parts. The first part is the range, which is a column to look for your criteria in the next part of this formula. The criteria is what must be true in the predefined range from the first part to be added to the sum. And finally, the last part is the sum range, which is a column which will be added to the sum if the criteria in the range is true. So let's see how to use that. Here we have our sample data set. We'll have order date, region, rep, item, units sold in that order, the unit sales price, and the total sales amount. We want to find out the total sales amount for these 3 different items. The first is the North region. The second is anything sold by the rep Gil. And the last one is the total amount of sales volume for stars. So to complete this, we're going to start our SUMIF formula by typing equals SUMIF, open parentheses, and we can see the different parts of that formula pop up here, which we have outlined over here. The first part is our range, which is a column to look for your criteria in the next part of this formula. So we want everything in the North region, which is in column B here. So we're going to highlight all the data here in column B. And that's going to be our range to look for the criteria which we want. We're going to hit comma, and our criteria is anytime that there was a sale in the North region. So we're going to click in cell I5. So now this is saying look in this range here from B4 to B39 for what is in I5, which is North. We're going to hit another comma, then we want to add in the sum range, the range that we want to add up if that row says North in column B, which is our sales amount in column G. I'm going to close parentheses, hit enter, and we can see the total for all the sales in the North region is $7,910.46. One more example. I'm going to do SUMIF. Now our range is going to be different for this because we're looking for the rep Gil. So we want to highlight all of the rep data, put a comma, click on Gil. That's our criteria. Then once again, we still want sales amount, so we're going to highlight all of our sales amount. Close parentheses. Gil sold $1,749.87. One more just to get the hang of this. Type SUMIF, open parentheses. We want all the items star. So we're going to highlight our data in the item column, comma, we want star, and once again our sales amount, close parentheses, we sold $1,357.15 of the item star. Let's now flip to SUMIFs and see how that differs from SUMIF. SUMIFs work the same way as SUMIF, except it's based on multiple criteria. The formula is rearranged a little bit differently on SUMIFs than it is from SUMIF. The primary change is the fact that the sum range will now be our first part of our formula as opposed to our last. Because in SUMIFs, we could have several different criteria and several different ranges, so we're going to add that sum range first. So in this example here, instead of finding out individually how many we sold in the North, how many were sold by Gil, and how many stars were sold. So to complete our SUMIFs, we're going to type in equals SUMIFs with an S. And then we're going to start with our sum range this time. It's going to be first as opposed to last in the SUMIF. So we're going to highlight the range we want to sum, which is our sale amount, comma, and then our first criteria range. which is in this case going to be region. So we're going to highlight all of region, comma, and the region we want in our SUMIFs is north, so we're going to reference cell I-26. Our second criteria is going to be rep, so we're going to highlight all the rep data, comma, we want the rep GIL, so we're going to reference that cell. And finally, our last criteria is going to be item, so we're going to highlight all of the item data, comma, and then we want the item for star. So we're going to reference that. And we're going to close parentheses. And so now this is going to return us anything, the sale amount for any sale that's in the north, sold by GIL, and is a star. And we can see that total is $77.40. Now we can also use SUMIFs in place of a SUMIF and only include the single criteria that we need. So up here we have our examples from earlier of the north, GIL, and star individually. We can see those SUMIF formulas here. And if we want to do a SUMIFs in place of a SUMIF here, just type SUMIFs, do our sum range first, which is sale amount, comma, our criteria range here is region, so we're going to highlight that, and then finally just reference the north because that's what we want. So we can see if we close parentheses, hit enter, we're going to get the same amount for SUMIFs using a single criteria as we do for a SUMIF. Alright, thanks again.